In this video, I want to take some time to talk about Death Stranding because I've seen some conversation surrounding this game. There's actually been quite a lot of conversation around Death Stranding, understandably so. There has been a lot of footage shown, there's been a lot of interviews given, and the thing I want to focus in on in this video is a recent quote that it's been taken out of context to an extent when you look around at articles, and I've been seeing it pop up. And the way that some headlines are projecting it, it's understandably frustrating some people. It's making some people raise their eyebrow, scratch their head, and making others just kind of go out here and try to trash this game and talk this game down and make it seem like it's going to be terrible. Obviously, there are a lot of Xbox fanboys that I'm not really going to waste too much time here, on them because it's just not worth it. But you know, they're out there taking every chance they can to bring this game down for whatever reason. And, the thing is, I get criticism myself. There's people who think that I do that for games when in reality, I feel as though I'm actually pretty fair with most games, honestly. I really try to be as fair as I can. It doesn't mean I'm going to attempt to go out of my way to skew my opinion, but I do try to be fair and honest. And so with a game like Death Stranding, I feel like the most honest thing I can say is that it's definitely not going to be for everybody, and there are going to be some people who play this game who are maybe left feeling disappointed or like it's just missing something for them. I can honestly say that. What I've seen so far, I can see that. But what it is we're talking about today is a quote that I've been seeing going around. I've seen many headlines basically saying that Death Stranding is only going to be fun after you reach the halfway mark, or that the game is, not fun to play until you've completed 50% of it. And, of course, it just seems we're going to go over it, okay? It says that speaking in an interview with Game Reactor, Hideo Kojima said, "When you play the game, you are driven in very slowly at the start. There's no explanation as to what you are doing, and the story will progress slowly, especially at the beginning. It's not like Terminator or Star Wars. There is no explanation or anything," he said. "You will feel lost, but don't worry, you will naturally fit in. The system is explained. Because you will gradually figure out the world and what you are able and unable to do, expect things to get fun around the halfway mark," according to Kojima. Some people say it's almost like the movie Alien, where you are gradually finding out what the whole world is about, what you can do and not do, he said. "Maybe it gets really fun when you have completed 50% of the game. The player, like in shooters and other genres, goes into the game with a known rule, and you think you know what that game is about. I didn't want to have that feeling. Everyone should start from ground zero, not knowing how to pick up and play the game. What I've shown makes you puzzled, but it all really makes sense when you play the game." Kojima goes on to say, "Everything is up to you in the game, from how you choose to climb a mountain, how you select your path, and where to go. And if you die, your soul will need to find your body in the void in order to come back." So, very interesting stuff there. Now, of course, there are going to be people who try to run with this and use it as a way to bring this game down. And I am here to not necessarily defend Death Stranding, because I feel as though it's a more nuanced conversation than that. It's not simply like Death Stranding is going to be a great game, you'll all see, I'll show you all, Death Stranding and Kojima's going to show you all. It's not so much that, because the thing is, I don't know, okay? I don't know what Death Stranding is exactly. Everything that Kojima has said here about this game so far, about us not knowing what it is and, how we're puzzled and we're going to have to take time to figure it out, he is correct. He is correct about that. I think most people can vouch for that. But there is something in particular about what he's saying here that I really kind of latched on to, that I feel as though most people, or at least a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, more so now than ever, don't seem to have an appreciation for things that aren't immediate gratification. They don't have the patience or the attention span to be able to just slowly take things in and actually appreciate a slow burn. It's actually really interesting that he referenced the movie Alien, because funny enough, I just recently got done listening to, I think it was the most recent Joe Rogan podcast where Rob Zombie was on, and I was really interested in that one, so I gave it a listen, and it was a great listen. And at one point, they were talking about a subject that really immediately made Death Stranding pop into my mind because it seems like it's taking a very similar approach, and a lot of people at first are kind of like, I don't understand, or this looks boring, or this looks like it's, it's going to be slow and whatever. And they were talking about how people today just don't have the attention span, how when it comes to the way Hollywood makes movies, it has to be bombastic, over the top, and just everything's happening right now immediately, and it doesn't stop. And it's okay for movies to be that way, but it just seems like it's really getting to a point where almost everything feels the need to be that way, because that's pretty much what our generation and what the people of today have come to expect. And people are getting to a point where they're not able to appreciate just something that isn't over the top, appreciate a slow burn, appreciate what it means to like actually build up to something. And they actually referenced a couple of movies, but the one that stuck out to me was The Shining, and how they talk about if that movie were to try to get made today, basically a Hollywood executive would just say, yeah, this is a great movie, but cut out the first hour. Just start at Red Rum. And I was just thinking to myself, like, it's totally true, man. It's totally true. And it honestly, Death Stranding popped into my mind when listening to this conversation. And I feel like it's especially true because you can, what Kojima's saying here. I came across this quote, by the way, or at least I read this article after I had heard this. So I was already naturally kind of thinking this way about Death Stranding based off of what we already knew. But with what Kojima's saying right here, this is confirmation, in my opinion, that this is exactly what he's going for. This game is not going to be for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. Does it mean it's going to be Game of the Year? I don't know. Does it mean it's going to be an amazing, mind-blowing game? I don't know. The only thing I really can go off of is that I played the Metal Gear Solid series, and Hideo Kojima is the mastermind, as well as a bunch of other people as well who deserve credit. But, Hideo Kojima is the one that really steered that ship, and it came from his mind mostly, and those games also are not for everybody, but for the people who have enjoyed them, I think we can all safely say there is something special there, and there are a lot of slower moments within Metal Gear Solid. I'm not trying to say that Death Stranding is going to be very similar, because it looks like Death Stranding may be even going a step above that, or a few steps above that, where I don't need to play a game, or to experience anything for that matter, like any piece of art, I guess we could say. I don't need to experience it with the expectation that it needs to have my, I need to basically be engaged like 100%, like in a flow the entire time. It doesn't need to be that. I can actually greatly appreciate playing games, just talking about video games here. I can appreciate games that are trying to do something different. I can appreciate it when it's actually trying to reach beyond just my basic sense of, I want to have fun. You know what I mean? Because even though the inherent idea of playing a video game is it needs to be fun, not necessarily. And I know some people are going to be completely against that, but really take a second to think about it. Not everything you experience when it comes to art, whether it's movies, whether it's listening to music, whether it's reading a book, or whether it's playing video games, it's not always about the fun factor, right? It's about a wide array of emotions and what something is trying to make you feel. Maybe something's trying to make you think. Maybe it's trying to make you think abstractly. Maybe it's trying to make you think about a singular topic and really kind of gauge you into that. Or maybe it's not trying to make you think at all. It's simply trying to make you react. You see what I'm saying? There's just a wide array of things going on here. And so I really feel disturbed at the fact that people are running with this quote. Not even just, people who are against this game, or who don't want to see this game succeed, or who just feel the need to talk badly about something that actually looks completely new and fresh for once, right? It's not even just those, but even like some of the articles and the headlines I'm seeing, it's understandable. I mean, they're going to pull something out here that's going to be polarizing, and there's no doubt that this quote is going to be polarizing. But here's the thing. If I go to play Death Stranding and I feel like I'm not really like feeling like I'm having a ton of fun until 50% of the way through, that makes me think, well, what else? What if I'm not experiencing a fun feeling, like I'm not experiencing fun during the first 50% of the game? Well, my question then is, what other feeling am I experiencing? I highly doubt it's going to be boredom. I mean, for some people, it might be boredom. Kojima did confirm, just like I said, in my gameplay thoughts video, Kojima shortly after that did confirm that one of the main themes in this game is loneliness, and how the game is going to go out of its way to make you feel lonely. And there's a reason for that. This is why we experience these things. This is why we play video games. This is why we do anything in life. It's to feel certain things. And so it just seems to me that when it comes to Death Stranding, if I'm not having fun for the first 50%, I'm going to be feeling something. Whether that's intrigue, I'm expecting intrigue and curiosity to be the number one thing that I'm going to be experiencing. Because it seems to me like what he's ultimately trying to say here is that this game is not going to be like anything you've ever played before. It may have some similar qualities in some areas, but the entire experience itself, it's going to feel like something completely new, and you're going to have to learn it just like you're learning something completely new. Even though you are playing a video game, it seems like it's going to play very differently from anything you've played before, and because of that, it's probably going to take some time. And if there's anything that any Metal Gear Solid fan should know, is that this game is probably going to be a very complex video game, not just control-wise. I'm not necessarily just saying it's going to have complex controls. That's not really what I'm getting at. I'm just saying in general, to kind of fully grasp and understand what's going on here, you're going to probably have to think a little bit deeper about it than you do with most other games or most other stories. And again, some people do not like to do that, and that's fine. I'm not sitting here saying you need to like Death Stranding. I'm not sitting here saying you need to be excited about this quote and say that, oh, I'm not going to have fun until 50% of the way through. That's what Kojima's saying. I'm thrilled about that. Listen, it's different for everybody, okay? But I'm just simply really trying to say here that people who are running with this and trying to use this as a way to bring the game down, you really need to understand that you're just, what you need to understand is you are not understanding what this game is in terms of what it's going to try to do, what it's going to attempt to do. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it up until launch, and I'll probably be saying it after launch as well, if everything we've seen is anything to go by. This is a different game. This is not going to be your run-of-the-mill video game that you get every year or every other year. This is going to be different, and I have an appreciation for that. I'm not saying everybody needs to, but I do feel as though on a base level, even if you're not interested in this game, I feel like you should at least give it the credit where, hey, it's trying something different. And to be fair, most people are. But, again, with today's generation, everybody's just so quick to tear things down. And I know that people are going to come at me for saying that, saying, MBG, you tear things down all the time. Listen, I'm not saying things don't deserve criticism. If you want to, meaningfully criticize Death Stranding, there's nothing wrong with that. But to basically just say something like, oh, it's a boring walking simulator. It's basically some guy trying to be artsy and he's going to fail or something like that, or some guy trying to convey a deep message and it's just not going to work. Like, stop reducing things down to the most basic level. Like, even when I criticize games or things on my channel here, not to be defensive, but I only do this because I know that it's going to get brought up. I like to think that I actually try to be a little bit nuanced about it and really go in depth as to why I'm criticizing it, why there are people who feel this way. And again, I'm totally open to people doing that for a game like Death Stranding. Go for it. Just, explain yourself. Don't just come off as a troll who's simply trying to just knock something down for the sake of knocking it down, because, a game like Death Stranding, in my opinion, simply doesn't deserve it. If this game looked like your run-of-the-mill third-person action shooter, and some people were like, oh, wow, yeah, this really looks so original and so unique, and Kojima was out here saying these things, and people were like, dude, this just looks like every other game, I totally understand that. That criticism would be warranted because, yeah, that just doesn't, those two things don't make sense. But he's trying to do something different here, and I think people need to understand, at the end of the day, what he's saying in this quote is that the game isn't necessarily gauged around just being a fun video game to play at all times. It's going to be a learning experience. It's going to be a game that hopefully keeps you feeling curious and a little bit uncomfortable in some ways while playing it, while learning it, and then eventually you're going to wrap your head around it and it's all going to click and fit into place. Kojima has proven that he is a master of storytelling and keeping people extremely confused, making them scratch their head, but then by the end of it, usually after some analysis, being able to understand what you just experienced. And so that right there is why I cannot wait for Death Stranding, and why, frankly, after reading a quote like this, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. So that does it for the video. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I know there are going to be some people who completely disagree with me. All I ask is this: if you're going to disagree with me, just leave an in-depth explanation. It doesn't have to be paragraphs long, but just let me know exactly why you're not on board with what Kojima is showing or what he's saying here, and why you may even be against the game. I'm willing to hear people out. Just don't reduce it down to something it's just simply not. So yeah, leave your thoughts down below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or agree with what I have to say. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.